When you finally let go of someone, the silence you leave behind becomes louder than anything you could have ever said. A man who was once used to your texts, your calls, your check-ins, and your gentle reminders suddenly finds himself staring at a void he didn't expect. At first, he may convince himself that your absence doesn't bother him. He may even brush it off, as if it is something temporary or something he can easily live without. But what he won't admit, at least not out loud, is how powerful that silence truly is. Every unanswered message, every day without your presence, every moment when he reaches for his phone, expecting your name to appear and it doesn't, those are the moments that start to get under his skin. It's not about the noise you made while you were around. It's about the consistency of your presence. He grew used to you being there without realizing how much space you actually filled in his life. When you let go, it's not just that you stop talking. It's that you take away the rhythm you created in his world. You take away the comfort, the certainty, the assurance that no matter how his day went, there would always be you. Silence has a way of highlighting the gaps he didn't know existed. And in that stillness, he will hear every unspoken truth that he tried to ignore. He may try to distract himself. He may go out with friends, throw himself into work, or even pretend that nothing has changed. But when he lays his head down at night, the quiet surrounds him, and there is no escaping it. The absence of your voice, your laughter, your encouragement, or even your disagreements becomes a constant echo in his mind. The silence forces him to think. It makes him confront the reality that he took your presence for granted, and now he has to face life without it. What makes this silence so impactful is that it cannot be argued with. Words can be twisted, actions can be explained away, but silence leaves no room for excuses. It is final, it is undeniable. It doesn't allow him to manipulate it or convince himself otherwise. He feels it in ways he will never admit, because admitting it would mean confessing that he actually needed you more than he wanted to let on. His pride will not allow him to say it, but deep down, the quiet gnaws at him. Every man has an ego, and for many, that ego is fed by attention. When you finally stop giving yours, he begins to notice just how much it mattered. He may not have valued it when it was freely given, but now that it's gone, it becomes the one thing he wishes he still had. Your silence becomes a reminder that you are no longer willing to play the role he took for granted. It tells him more than words ever could, because it signals strength. It shows him that you've chosen yourself over him, and that truth cuts deeper than anything else. The sudden silence is not just an absence. It is a presence of power. It shifts the energy. It changes the dynamic. It forces him to feel things he never thought he would feel. And even if he never admits it, even if he masks it behind indifference, that silence lingers inside him, reminding him that when you finally let go, you took with you something he may never find again. And that is why letting go is so powerful, because it's in your silence that he finally hears the truth. When you finally let go of him, one of the first things he will feel, even if he never says it, is the sudden weight of emotional absence. For so long, he has had access to your emotions, your care, your attention, your love, and even your concern during his lowest moments. He might have gotten used to the way you asked if he was okay, the way you checked on him when something seemed off, or the way you celebrated even his smallest wins. All of that emotional energy created a cushion for him, one he probably assumed would always be there, no matter what. But when you remove yourself, when you no longer offer those emotional lifelines, he feels it in ways he cannot cover up. It may not show on the outside right away because men often try to mask their emotions with distractions or confidence. He may throw himself into his hobbies, spend more time with friends, or act like nothing bothers him, but deep inside, he is quietly struggling. The absence of emotional validation, the lack of encouragement, and the disappearance of that nurturing presence begins to gnaw at him. He starts realizing that it was not just about companionship, it was about emotional grounding. Without you, his world feels less stable, even if he refuses to admit it out loud. What makes this emotional absence so powerful is that it cannot be easily replaced. Attention can be found temporarily in new connections. Physical comfort can be pursued without much effort. But genuine emotional presence, the kind you gave him, is rare. He may not have valued it enough when he had it, but the moment it's gone, he notices that not everyone cares deeply, not everyone listens patiently, and not everyone understands him the way you did. He feels the gap, and though his pride may keep him silent, his soul knows it. The irony is that many men don't realize how much they depend on emotional support until it is stripped away. He might have thought he was strong enough to carry everything alone, but when you were there, he leaned on you more than he ever admitted. Your encouragement gave him quiet confidence. Your comfort gave him peace in moments of stress. Your belief in him made him feel capable in times when he doubted himself. When you finally let go, he has to face all of that without your safety net. And that absence creates a weight he cannot ignore. And while he may try to fill that void by seeking comfort elsewhere, it rarely feels the same. Surface level validation does not heal him the way your consistent emotional presence did. Temporary attention cannot replicate the depth of care you once gave freely. And in those moments, even if he doesn't reach out or say it, he begins to miss you, not just for who you were, but for what you gave. The truth is, you left behind a silence in his emotions that echoes louder than any words could. The strength of your absence lies in the fact that it reveals how deeply you mattered in ways he didn't acknowledge before. He may never admit that your emotional support was his hidden anchor, but when it's gone, he feels unsteady. He feels the loss not in one big wave, but in subtle, constant reminders of how much lighter life felt with you by his side. And even if he denies it outwardly, deep down he knows that letting go has left him facing himself in ways he was not prepared for. That's why when you let go, he feels it emotionally in silence, in ways he cannot fully explain, and in truths he cannot deny. When you finally let go of him, another powerful thing he will feel, even if he refuses to say it, is the sting of regret. Regret is a quiet but heavy emotion, one that creeps in during moments of stillness. When he starts replaying everything in his mind, he will begin to remember the times you were patient with him, the times you forgave him when he didn't deserve it, the times you gave more effort than he ever matched. At the time, he may not have thought much about those moments because he assumed they would always keep coming. But when you walk away and he no longer has access to your love, suddenly every memory feels like a reminder of what he lost Regret is not always loud. It doesn't always look like him calling or apologizing. Sometimes it's hidden in the way he scrolls back through old conversations, reads over your words, and wonders why he didn't appreciate them more. Sometimes it's in the way he drives past a place you two used to go and feels a pull in his chest because he knows that chapter is over. Other times it's when he hears a song, smells a familiar scent, or sees someone who reminds him of you, and that rush of memory forces him to confront the reality that he took you for granted. Regret has a way of surfacing even when he doesn't want it to, and no amount of distractions can fully erase the awareness of what he let slip away. What makes regret so heavy for him is the realization that it's not just about losing you, it's about losing the chance to do things differently. He might start to think about how he could have been more attentive, how he should have listened more carefully, how he could have fought harder to keep you. Those what ifs become a cycle that he may never admit to anyone else but himself. And even if he tries to move on with someone new, the regret lingers because deep down, he knows he had something special that he didn't treat with the value it deserved. The thing about regret is that it doesn't vanish quickly. It sticks, it lingers because he cannot undo the past and he cannot erase the way he failed to show up when it mattered most. He may try to bury it under pride, pretend he's fine, or act like your absence doesn't bother him, but regret doesn't let go easily. It whispers in his quiet moments, reminding him that he had something real and now it's gone because of choices he made or effort he refused to give. This regret becomes one of the deepest ways he feels your absence because it makes him face the truth that he cannot go back. He might never say it aloud, but within himself, he knows he lost something that could have been lasting, and the ache of that realization is something he cannot escape. That is why when you finally let go, he feels regret in ways he will never confess, but it stays with him, shaping how he thinks about you and what he lost. Another way he will feel it when you finally let go, even though he may never admit it, is through the emptiness that follows the silence. For so long, he grew accustomed to the comfort of knowing you were there. Maybe he didn't always answer your calls. Maybe he brushed off your texts, or maybe he assumed you would always check in no matter how much distance he created. But when you let go, that steady flow of attention, care, and reassurance stops. Suddenly, his phone is quieter. The reminders that someone is thinking about him vanish. And while he may act like it doesn't bother him, the silence speaks volumes. It is in the silence where he begins to notice the void you've left behind. At first, he might distract himself, telling himself he's fine, keeping busy with friends, work, or hobbies. But late at night or during moments when there's no one else around, the quiet sets in differently. He realizes there's no one checking to see if he got home safe, no one asking about his day, no one offering those small but meaningful acts of support that once felt so ordinary. The absence of your presence becomes louder than your voice ever was, because now he is forced to see how much space you actually occupied in his life. This emptiness can be confusing for him, especially if he didn't recognize how much he relied on your emotional presence. It's easy to take constant care and attention for granted, but once it disappears, it highlights how valuable it really was. Even if he tries to replace it with surface level interactions or temporary connections, it never feels the same. No one else checks in with the same sincerity. No one else cares in that way that only you did. The silence you leave behind becomes a mirror showing him that what he lost was more than a person, it was a bond that can't be duplicated. The emptiness also forces him to sit with his own thoughts. When you were in his life, you were a distraction from his insecurities, his stress, or his loneliness. You provided balance and emotional grounding, often without him realizing it. But when you step back and let go, he has no choice but to face those things on his own. That can be uncomfortable, even painful, and while he won't admit it, it makes him realize how much he depended on your presence to fill spaces within himself he didn't want to face. He may try to act tough, pretend he's enjoying the freedom, or convince himself that silence means peace, but deep inside, the emptiness lingers and gnaws at him. He knows that it isn't just about losing you. It's about losing the comfort of being truly seen and cared for. And though he might never admit it, the weight of that silence leaves him missing you in ways words can't express. That is why when you finally let go, the emptiness of your absence becomes one of the most powerful reminders of what he lost, even if he never tells a soul. Another way he'll feel it when you finally let go, even though he might never admit it, is through the sting of watching you grow without him. At first, he may think you'll struggle, that your world will somehow slow down or collapse because he's not in it anymore. He may even believe deep down that you'll stay stuck on him checking his updates, waiting for him to come around, or holding on to the hope of reconciliation. But when you release your attachment and truly let go, what begins to unfold is something he never expected. Your glow, your strength, your freedom, and your happiness start shining in ways he didn't think possible. That silent growth will leave an undeniable mark on him, even if his pride won't allow him to say it out loud. Growth after letting go is powerful because it's not just about moving forward. It's about proving to yourself that you are whole without someone else holding the pieces together. And when he sees you stepping into that wholeness, it shakes him in ways he won't confess. He might scroll past your posts, see you smiling, notice the new goals you're chasing, or hear about you thriving from mutual friends. Outwardly, he'll act unbothered as though he doesn't care. But inwardly, it burns to realize that life didn't stop for you. It bloomed. You didn't crumble without him. Instead, you discovered an even stronger version of yourself. Men often carry unspoken pride in the belief that they were central to a woman's happiness. When you let go and your happiness becomes brighter, it bruises that pride. He may never admit that seeing you at peace without him unsettles him, but it does. It forces him to realize he underestimated your resilience and your ability to rise after heartbreak. In a way, your growth becomes a silent reminder of his own stagnation, and that reflection is not easy to sit with. Beyond what he sees, your growth affects him in ways he feels but can't explain. He'll remember the times you were by his side, pouring into him, giving him encouragement, supporting his dreams, often while setting your own aside. Now, he sees that same energy being invested into yourself. You're building, creating, and thriving without his presence. That shift in dynamic, when the love you once poured into him is redirected toward your own growth, is something he will notice, and it will stay with him even if he never speaks it. And what makes it sting even more is the contrast. When he looks at his own life, he might not see the same progress. While you're moving forward, finding joy, and building confidence, he may feel stuck in patterns or routines. That comparison, even if unspoken, becomes a weight he silently carries. It reminds him of what he lost, not only in you, but in the version of himself he could have been if he had appreciated you more. This is why your growth is such a powerful force. It doesn't need to be flaunted. It doesn't need to be shouted. It speaks for itself. Your glow, your peace, your success, and your renewed sense of self all become living proof that you didn't need him to become whole. He may never admit it, but he will feel it deeply, and it will echo in his heart long after you've moved on. That's why when you finally let go, the undeniable power of your growth leaves him facing a truth he can't ignore, even if he never says it out loud. Another powerful way he'll feel it when you finally let go, even though he'll never openly admit it, is through the silence you leave behind. When you step away, when your voice, your presence, and your energy are no longer there, that quiet becomes louder than any words you could have spoken. He may not realize it at first. In fact, he might even welcome the space, thinking it's what he wanted. But as time passes, the absence begins to weigh on him. The late night conversations, the check-ins, the laughter, even the small routines you shared, all of those things that seemed so ordinary suddenly stand out when they're gone. Silence has a way of forcing reflection. Without your presence filling the gaps, he's left alone with his own thoughts. That's when he begins to feel what he's lost, but his pride will keep him from saying it. He might distract himself, surround himself with noise, or keep busy trying to drown out the emptiness. But deep down, he knows something has shifted. The comfort of knowing you were always there is gone, and that void speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. This silence also highlights something he may not want to face, that your attention and your care were never guaranteed. He may have assumed they would always be there, taken for granted that you would always check in, always forgive, always hold space for him. But once you've let go, he learns in the hardest way possible that love and presence are choices, not obligations. And when you remove yours, it creates a space that no one else can quite fill. Even though he won't admit it, this silence unsettles him. It's not about dramatic gestures or loud goodbyes. It's about the realization that your energy, which once wrapped around his life like a safety net, is no longer accessible. That is when the weight of your absence becomes undeniable, even if he'll never say it out loud. And that is why when you finally let go, the silence you leave behind speaks volumes, touching him in ways he may never confess but will always feel.